2 p.m. on September 28, 2021. Mr. County Administrator, would you please introduce the first and only item?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you mentioned, it is at that time that you look forward to all year long, our federal and state legislative workshop where you establish your priorities. We have with us our team from staff, Andy Johnson and Nikki Payton, who are joined at the table this afternoon by our state contract team, who you'll be introduced to in just a moment, but need no introduction at this time. And I believe we're also joined by our federal lobbyist via Zoom with Squire Patton Boggs. And with that, I'll hand it off to you, Andy.
Thank you, Vince, and good afternoon, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. Vince mentioned, this is our annual workshop, of course, where the board establishes our state and federal legislative priorities for the upcoming year. It's a pleasure to be back here again to present the workshop. As Vince mentioned, joining us around the table today, we have, of course, Nikki Payton from our Leon County legislative team. Next to me are Jeff Sharkey and Taylor Beal from Capital Alliance Group, our state lobbying team. And as you can see at the top of the screen, on the screens around the chambers here, we've got Vicki Cram with us from Squire Patton Boggs, and I know Sarah Vilms from Patton Boggs will be joining us as well. That's our federal lobbying team. And you'll hear from each of them in just a moment throughout today's presentation. So, Commissioners, just a quick overview, Nick, if you can slide for me, of what we'll be covering today as we get back over to the PowerPoint here. In a moment, Commissioners, I'll hand it off to Nikki to walk us through the items that are included in your workshop packet, which include a concise list of proposed appropriations requests for the upcoming legislative session, as well as a slate of state and federal policy priorities. Along the way, Commissioners, throughout the workshop today, you'll hear from Jeff about some of the major policy issues that we anticipate heading into the 2022 state legislative session, and Vicki and Sarah from Squire Patton Boggs similarly will provide us all an update on some of the latest developments in Congress. So as always, Commissioners, just a quick note, as we do each year, we'll plan to just hit the highlights in our presentation today about our proposed legislative priorities. Of course, all of the information that we'll present today and much more is discussed in full detail in the workshop materials that you have before you. But of course, please stop us at any time if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have along the way today. And of course, we'll be sure to wrap up our presentation with plenty of time for the board to discuss or answer any further questions that you may have. So,
Andy, if you don't mind, let me interrupt you real quick before we get into the details. Supervisor Early is here. We've got one speaker, and if you don't mind, Supervisor Early, it's up to you. If you'd like to speak now, that way you could get back to doing elections type work. Mr. Early, if you wouldn't mind stating your full name and then your name and address, your address for the record. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mark Early. I'm the Leon County Supervisor of Elections. As we do every year, our association has developed a list of legislative priorities. I've got copies of those. I'd love to pass some of those out to your team. I know we partner a lot on many items. And again, thanks with the work you've done with the FAC on our behalf. So I can keep it very short, just pass these out, and then answer any questions. I can stick around for a while if you have any questions, or we can do that afterwards.
Okay, that sounds good.
And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to hand it off to Nikki to get us started walking through our proposed legislative priorities for this year.
All right. Good afternoon, Commissioners. As Andy mentioned, I will be giving an overview of our proposed legislative priorities for the upcoming 2022 state and federal legislative sessions. While I plan on hitting the highlights today, Commissioners, as a reminder, the state and federal legislative issues presented today are included in full detail in the workshop item before you. And as always, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have along the way. So starting off with our list of proposed appropriation requests, Commissioners, as a brief reminder, each year the board establishes a list of county projects to seek direct legislative funding through the legislature's annual appropriations process. As approved by the board, these projects are to be submitted by members requesting line item funding from the state's budget. As you'll see up on the screen, we have put together a concise and targeted list of funding requests that best align with the anticipated priorities of the legislature. As noted in previous years, however, the legislature typically does not fund a large number of local projects through its appropriations process. And it's important to mention that by and large, most of the funding that we receive for county projects comes from existing state agency grant programs throughout the year. Given this, your workshop item also provides a more extensive list of county projects in which we're pursuing funding for through these grant opportunities. So just to reiterate, Commissioners, the smaller list that you see up on the screen reflects county projects that we feel are most likely to be successful as line item appropriations, given the legislature's recent interest in supporting local projects within the areas of economic development, disaster recovery, and water quality. So moving on to the proposed state policy priorities for the upcoming session, we are proposing a total of 11 state policy issues for the board's consideration today. Commissioners, you may recall many of these issues, so I won't discuss them all in great detail, but there are a few that have important updates that I would like to take a moment to discuss. With that being said, please feel free to jump in at any time if you have questions. So to start off, up on the screen, we have some priorities that have been previously approved by the board, such as the county's longstanding priority of advocating on behalf of the 20,000 Leon County residents that are state employees. This has been a top priority at the board for many years, and with the board's approval, we will continue to support and advocate for legislation that benefits our state workforce next session. Moving on to our next slide, Commissioners, these are also issues that the board has approved in prior years, so I won't go into too much detail on. But I wanted to take a moment and touch on the issue of Amtrak restoration. This is another long-standing priority of the board, and while efforts are continuing to restore rail service throughout the Gulf Coast region, there has also been recent interest at the federal level in investing in freight and passenger rail infrastructure. Most recently, the Surface Transportation Board determined last month that it will be reviewing a request by Amtrak to restore Gulf Coast service between New Orleans and Mobile. The Surface Transportation Board is an independent federal agency charged with regulating various modes of transportation, including freight rail. They will evaluate Amtrak's request, which will involve a hearing expected to take place by the end of this year or early next. Given the increased interest related to restoring passenger rail along the Gulf Coast route, we're recommending keeping this issue on the state priority list, as well as our federal list, which you'll see in just a moment. And the next issue I want to touch on is related to concealed weapons on college and university campuses. We have seen guns rights legislation take a prominent role during recent legislative sessions, and bills to allow guns on campus have already been filed for this session. This is an annual issue that the county has opposed over the last several years, and we're recommending to continue our opposition through the upcoming year. And finally, on the next slide, Commissioners, you'll see that we have 3 new state policy issues for the board's consideration. The first issue is the preemption of COVID-19 mitigation measures. As you'll recall, last session, the legislature passed Senate Bill 2006, which, among other things, created new restrictions on local government's ability to implement mitigative measures related to public health emergencies. Legislation has already been filed for the upcoming session to further restrict local governments, including House Bill 75, which seeks to preempt local governments from imposing face covering requirements. We are recommending to oppose House Bill 75 and any similar legislation filed this session seeking to preempt local mitigation efforts related to COVID-19. And the next new issue relates to allowing local governments to conduct virtual meetings during declared state of emergencies. As you'll recall, in March 2020, the governor issued an executive order suspending statutory physical quorum requirements for local government public meetings, which was in effect through November of last year. While bills were filed shortly after seeking to automatically suspend quorum requirements during a declared state of emergency, these bills ultimately did not pass last session. We anticipate similar legislation to be filed again this year, and therefore we're recommending inclusion of this issue as part of our state priorities for the 2022 session. And the final issue we're proposing relates to public record exemptions for election workers. As you'll recall from your meeting on September 14th, the board approved the county's submittal of this proposal for consideration as part of FACT's policy development process. Given the board's support, we're also recommending this issue as part of our priorities for the upcoming session. So with that, commissioners, that concludes our proposed state priorities for 2022. Recognizing that this was a quick overview of our proposed priorities, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to pause for a moment if the board has any questions, or if not, I'm happy to hand it over to Jeff Sharkey for an update on what to expect next session.
Thank you very much, Nikki. First of all, let me make just a quick point on the item for public records exemptions for election workers. At last week's FAC Innovation and Policy Conference, the Finance, Tax, and Administration Committee met and discussed this item, among others. And the end result was that a motion was made to adopt support of the Florida State Association for Supervisor Elections legislative priority on this item. So it will be listed as a legislative priority to support what the Florida State Association for SOEs is doing on this item. With that, any comments or questions from the board? Yes, Commissioner Dozier, and then Mr. Dozier.
Just a quick clarification. Were we moving on to federal next, or you had another update?
Yes, we were going to provide our federal priorities after the state update.
Mr. Chair, your discretion if you want to hold discussion until after both presentations or talk about state first and then move on.
I'm fine with talking about the state level priorities now, yeah, if you want.
Okay. Well, hi, everybody. Good to see you guys. I know you're already busy. Getting ready for the early session. In good work last year, I think the additional on COVID issues and obviously our supervisor election, really great. I am going to, do this with a smile behind my mask, given that we were all up very late last night. But the Leon Works line item, this has been something that we have had on the list for a long time. Given our action last night, it seems like we might want to look at this program from maybe a different angle. We've talked about this before. There's a lot of energy in workforce right now. Could we request funding for more than just a Leon Works type program? And there's been some suggestions made. I've actually heard this from the construction industry, but also from others about how we could do outreach direct to schools. We have done a fantastic job with Leon Works capturing a certain group of students for our annual event, but there were some questions about how to have a more coordinated presence in the schools, maybe a career day or something like that. I'm not sure if that's the idea we would want to look at, Mr. Chair, but I'd love to hear any thoughts you guys might have, for sure, about how we might expand this and look for additional workforce dollars to really support our students. And the last thing I'll say, and this is not, I could not mention this outside of a board meeting, but I just saw Commissioner Welch's hand go up. I will say, you got a shout out in one of my conversations recently as being very interested in entrepreneurship in schools. So I don't want to steal your thunder, but Commissioner Welch, I really appreciated hearing that and would love to think about that as part of this mix as well. And Mr. Chair, since I'm seeing a lot of conversation there, I'll hold my next question until after discussion on the workforce.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier.
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Welch?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment real quick on that, Commissioner Dozier. We are having a pretty, as a classroom teacher, we're making a real concerted effort to make sure that every student in my classes and social studies classes at high school is logging into Talent Hub as a part of doing the sort of virtual Leon Works or whatever we can do at this time. But I just want to let you know the school district is, hyper focused on making sure everybody is trying their best to at least take advantage of Talent Hub. And certainly in the classroom, we're having a lot of conversations around workforce development and stuff. But I understand what you're saying. At a $50,000 line item, I'd like to see that fulfilled for sure.
Oh, okay, Jeff, do either of you have any comments?
You want to comment on this? Well, actually, it was one of the issues we're going to talk about. So, we've been working on Leon Works for a long time, get it passed, the governor vetoes it, get it passed some years, he signs it. To your point, listen, I think it's a very successful program, and, I know the county has continued to support it. We've spent over the last month and a half kind of serendipitously a lot of time on apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs. There has been some legislation last year that really, in terms of articulation on Career Source Florida and with local Career Source regional groups, school districts, et cetera, to really identify additional, what they call additional apprenticeable occupations. You may be tracking this, as well as look at the current on-the-job training, both apprenticeships and then pre-apprenticeships programs. So we've talked to the department.
Jeff, I'm so sorry, Mr. Chair. Could you pull the microphone just a little bit closer
Yeah.
to you? It's the mask, sir.
Right there.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, through the mask darkly. Yeah. So again, pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs. We've met several times with the Department of Education, the Chancellor for Adult and Technical Education, Career Source Education, just as this week. And the governor's office has a new agency entity called REACH, which is all about credentialing apprenticeship programs and pre-apprenticeship programs. And so we've been meeting with them to ensure that we understand fully, how this current programs, OJT programs are going, but also pre-apprenticeship programs, and some of these new areas that they want to do this tighter articulation and give credit for these programs in case somebody wants to go into post-secondary education. So that's a long-winded, but to your point, I think there are additional resources for sure that could fund something like Leon Works, even Leon Works in general as a line item, but potentially through this credential review committee that is reviewing all of these programs and then identifying which ones should get funded. So we're already working on that now in the front. They just got started a month ago. So, I think your point is well taken.
Yeah, Commissioner Dozier.
That's fantastic, and I assume that's what you were going to say too. You were nodding along, or Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, I just didn't know if there was another comment there before I ask a follow-up.
Yeah. Taylor was one of the mention we talked about, expanding the amount of money for the program, which, it's such a small amount. There's a lot of effort goes into 50,000 versus 100 for 500,000, but so we'll have that conversation and see if we can maybe plus it up a little bit.
Okay.
It's the legislature is very focused on this. It was the speaker's big priority last year. So.
And I did reference yesterday, that's on my mind today. It should be on all of our minds, but regardless of that, there is a lot of energy in this space. We know there's been more attention to particularly apprenticeships in recent years. So I'm really happy to hear you're starting to see a lot of traction there. And yeah, 50,000 is, maybe it's a doable request. It has been successful, but if we can bump that up to support actual training programs. And one key piece that I hear from a lot of industries, but particularly construction, is kind of some issues in how they work with the training programs, right? Who pays, those types of things. And I assume that's in the mix of what you all are discussing. So I guess, Mr. Chair, I'm looking for a recommendation here of, do we let you all talk about this and then bring us some information back to then enhance our legislative request if we want, or how might we approach this? And Mr. Chair, that might be for county administrator, for the staff, whomever, yeah.
Mr. County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Commissioner Dozier, I was just going to request, we won't need much time. I think we were following you there on some of the, not only the appropriation request, but on maybe scoping things a little different. And we've got an opportunity to bring this back along with the ratification of this item and sort of propose to you all what we're thinking based on the availabilities that exist and bring that back to you.
October 12th, is that what you're thinking, or would it be November?
It would be with the ratification item in October.
That's what I
Yes.
thought.
Yep.
That's what I wanted to check because things are moving quickly. So I think that would be fantastic. So thank you for your work and for the update. Mr. Chair, your discretion again, I mean, if you want one motion on this, I don't know, Mr. County Administrator, if you need a motion on this or if you've got it, or if we wrap it up at the end.
I think
With pleasure.
I think we've captured it based
Okay.
on the discussion.
Okay.
Anything else, Mr. Dozier?
On that particular issue, no.
Okay, you can, why don't we focus on the state level policies
Yeah.
right now? So if you have anything else, feel free to go right ahead. And we may want to mix it up. Any other commissioners like to say a few words? I've got something, but I'll hold on that for a bit. Anything else at this moment? Okay, Commissioner Dozier, please go ahead.
Actually, Mr. Chair, why don't you go ahead? I got into the weeds in workforce, so I'll glance at this real quick.
Okay,
Not
Mr.
much.
Welch, do you have any remarks?
Just a question really for the county administrator, but probably Jeff and Taylor and Andy. The Amtrak Rail reestablishment thing, does that have anything to do with our recent expenditure? I might be confused on that totally, but aren't we putting tourism in the old station house or something?
Right.
Is that the same thing?
We are constructing that facility, and however, it doesn't currently contemplate the restoration of a depot or a ticket office, but we do recognize that, again, if we did get this opportunity, then we would have the opportunity to then go back and address that issue within the existing building.
So if the federal government does decide to reestablish that corridor, we would have our tourism office right there?
Good.
I think I like that. You know what I'm saying? Get off the train, right into the tourist office.
Welcome.
Good job.
Commissioner Welch, thank you very much. That's a great segue to the comments that I was going to make. Many of us, I think all of us really, have been interested in Amtrak for years. When I was first a candidate way back when, it was one of the biggest issues I think people in this area were interested in. One of the biggest, right? When I worked for the city, for example, we had a media advisory just inviting the press to the depot for some type of event about Amtrak. And the public got wind of that. I think one of the media outlets had posted the media advisory on their website a day or two before, and we had 75 people show up just because they were interested in having Amtrak restored. I've had a lot of discussions with people over the years about it. It seems like the federal government probably is more keen on doing something to restore passenger rail along the Gulf Coast than it has been for years. My understanding is that the state government, for going back to the days of Governor Rick Scott, has been rather throwing some cold water on the idea. Understanding that the federal government right now as we speak is deliberating what the infrastructure bill is going to look like and how much money that's going to be. Let's say that there's something like that does actually make it through and passes. Understanding the federal government's willingness to take a look at restoration along this route, but also understanding the hesitancy from state governments that's existed for years. What's your best guess on the prospects at this point?
Mr. Chairman, I would say I think there's a fair chance that if an infrastructure bill passes in Congress, there has been some front burner discussion about including some significant funding for the expansion of the nationwide rail network, and also specifically for restoring routes like the Gulf Coast route that have been interrupted in recent years. So at this point in time, it's a very broad level overview of what the funding would go for. There's not a whole lot of detail yet at this point in the process as to exactly how much funding goes into each pot and exactly what it would go for. But at such time as Congress passes legislation that provides significant funding for Congress, what we would intend to do is come back to you with much more detail about exactly what that funding is tailored for and what opportunities may be there to arise. Again, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, I think a lot of the reluctance at the state level in recent years has been on a policy basis around, whether public funding should subsidize passenger rail. We'll have to see what Congress ultimately does or does not pass, but in terms of restoring interrupted passenger rail networks, there could be funding that goes towards supporting some of the operational costs associated with that. Again, we're just not far enough down the line with that yet to see exactly what would or would not be in there. But of course, we'll provide an update in timely fashion to the board as soon as we know what passes.
Understood. That sounds, in fact, do we need any type of motion to that effect? Or once the federal legislation passes?
That is something that we would absolutely
would we be able to come back to us with an update on that? I think, it's one of those things where if you take a look at the nationwide map of passenger rail, you see just visually, it catches your eye, the gap between New Orleans and Jacksonville. So I think there's a big need there. However, it's not a slam dunk, because when it was in operation, I remember this from some of the research we did, it was one of the most heavily subsidized routes that Amtrak had, at least at that point. Now, there were some issues with the scheduling and the arrival times of the trains at the stops along that stretch, which can account for some of that. And so the argument would be, if you can adjust the time so that they're more conducive to peak periods, you'd have more passengers. But I think it's something that's very important to us. I think it's very important for this region to have that restoration of rail. And so once we have a clearer picture of what the federal legislation does, and if it actually passes the House and Senate and becomes law, it'd be great to hear an update from you all on it.
Absolutely.
Any other comments? Commissioner Cummings, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Thank you,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chair. Just backtracking on another issue on the same lines that's been raised by Mr. Early. I'm on the Finance, Tax, and Administration Committee with the Florida Association of Counties, and we've had a meeting where we discussed legislative priorities as well. I don't know if you all are in contact or communication with them, but one of the issues, one of the legislative priorities that was raised in our meeting was public record exemption for county attorneys, and some of the county representatives felt real strong about it as it relates to address and other identifying information on the public tax rolls, for homestead exemption, what have you. So I guess my question is, has that been raised, elevated with you guys?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Cummings, your workshop materials include a proposed priority to basically support whatever FACT's legislative priorities are.
Oh.
So as long as FACT includes that as among its legislative priorities, we've got direction from the board, assuming the board approves the slate of proposed priorities in your workshop materials. That gives us the direction to go ahead and support that issue as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. Any further remarks, ma'am? Jeff, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, Commissioner, to Andy's point, we do support the FACT priorities, and we meet with them regularly, weekly during the legislative session on issues of importance to counties. And so typically they'll say, we need help on this issue, and so they task us with, certain legislators to go work on stuff. So we'll be working on that set of kind of priority lists for them as well.
Thank you.
Yes.
All righty, Andy.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Jeff, are there any other items on the kind of a state update?
I've got a 45-minute PowerPoint presentation I'd like to know. No. No humor there. Listen, thank you. I'll move through this rather quickly. And again, I want to thank Andy and Nikki and their team. The briefing paper they put together I was telling them earlier, is so thorough, so comprehensive, so accurate. It's actually, you find stuff that we may have missed, during the session. But so I want to thank them for their hard work and a great teamwork between us. Thanks to the Leon County delegation. Obviously, we were working with them, talked to them all summer long. Senator Osley, Representatives Tance, Alexander, and Schoaf. We've actually been working with them, with Andy, working on appropriations requests, concepts, et cetera. So I want to thank them as well. But again, more importantly, I want to thank the commission here for allowing us to continue to represent the county. We're honored and very excited about it, and we'll give you our 150% effort throughout this year. I'll just hit some high notes here. Their presentation, I went through it again today, is very, very thorough, and we can happy to answer any questions on that. But you're here. Some of the stuff is probably got certain nerves on edge here. But what's happening? This early return to the Capitol this session. They actually had their first interim committee meeting last week. It was very busy. They'll have a week in September, 2 weeks in October, 3 in November, and then the legislative session, formal session, starts January, February. Last year it started in January and moved forward. So they're moving forward. It's campaign year, which is all playing into this, and it's redistricting and reapportionment. So there's a lot of politics involved in all of that stuff. There are 271 bills already filed. We anticipate there'll be 3,000 plus again this year, and we're tracking those now. It's an environment dominated by a couple of things. It's dominated by campaign politics for sure. You could see that every day in the front page of the paper. COVID certainly is having a long-lasting, reverberating effect on everything. I don't need to tell Mr. Long that, but it's dominating healthcare policies, politics, appropriations issues, and certainly policies at the Department of Education, Department of Health, and again, kind of rippling throughout other agencies. I won't go into the mask mandates. You're very familiar with that stuff. Vaccine mandate issues. There have been some bills filed. Representative Barnaby filed House Bill 75 to really obviously penalize, move that executive order into kind of legislation. It's causing this tremendous, partisan divide. It's even fracturing it more. And again, I don't have to go into that, but I anticipate, even to the extent, and maybe I'll leave it at this, the chair of the Senate Education Committee was actually thinking about doing a bill to allow local opt-out or optional use of all vaccinations for kids in school. I mean, you go down the list, all the stuff traditionally has been not a concern is really, passing legislation that would say parents can choose. I mean, we've kind of reached that particular stage. Reapportionment, redistricting, of course, is near and dear to the hearts of legislators and Congress people. We'll probably see some adjustments in three congressional districts, principally a new one in Central Florida, and of course, those maps are being first committee in the Senate and the House were last week. That will dominate the session as well. And you've got folks like the Supervisors of Elections, League of Women Voters, a lot of other fair district folks will be actively involved in those discussions on those maps. The budget picture actually looks really, really good. We had a $101 billion budget last year, which is $10 billion over the previous year. Obviously, most of that is related to federal funds flowing in, counties, local governments, get them to the state. But now, with the governor open, keeping the state open, as it were, sales tax revenues were $620 million above what they expected in April, 25% over the forecasted amount. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. We've got a $3.17 billion sales tax generation or general revenue in July. Long story short, I mean, the revenue estimators are obviously being very cautious here, but the numbers continue to show an increase in the budget for the state. We were over at the end of the session last year in the Speaker's office with their head policy person, who's a pretty good friend of ours, and he was saying, we're trying to find places to put all this federal money to do it right. But I mean, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars are there. However, so we've got almost $7 billion in unallocated general revenue, a lot of money in the budget stabilization, $4 billion in reserves. So it's a healthy. The state's pretty healthy. However, I mean, maybe rhetorical more than factual at the end of the day. The Speaker and the Senate President and the Governor said we're going to be very austere this year. We're going to be very judicious in how we spend these funds. But again, I think with kind of the key issues that the Senate President Simpson, well, who's in his last year, Speaker Sprowls is in the last year, so we have a new Speaker designate, a President designate, are kind of coming into their power right now. But those issues for Simpson are water and water quality, child welfare issues, foster parent issues, very strong. Sprowls has really been a real leader in risk management, sea level rise, resiliency, and as you know, they carved up the Sadowski funds last year into 3 tranches, and one of those tranches is for water and wastewater for the Senate President. One of them is for sea level climate change resiliency for the Speaker. So there are funds in those buckets, as it were, moving forward. I'll stop here, but let me just do a couple of things that are, again, it's at the beginning of these sessions, social policy issues seem to take precedent. We do have the Texas abortion bill has been filed in Florida on the House side. We have, again, we will have COVID mask and vaccine issues. I can anticipate we'll see a lot of discussion on the Surfside condo collapse issues, condominiums, infrastructure. That's a very complicated issue on assessments for condos, but there is a structural engineer that we talked to who said that any building built in the 70s and 80s within 100 yards of the beachfront, the ocean or the Gulf, is already experiencing decay and stress on all of the rebar in the concrete, et cetera, et cetera. So that could be a significant issue. The other thing, which is kind of a little below the radar, education obviously will be big this year, I think, particularly in terms of some of these, not only these policy mandates, but this career workforce articulation. The other big issue, which I think is a bit of a time bomb, is the lifting of the moratorium on evictions. We can anticipate that. There are really million and a half people in Florida that could potentially be evicted out of their rental units now that the CDC's eviction moratorium has been lifted. So affordable housing is going to be more and more important for sure across the board. And then I'll stop there, but again, we obviously support protecting state workers, and I think we had a good year last year, and look forward to continued support. We've got some tireless fighters in our delegation here for that, so that's good. Last thing on the guns on campus issue, I know it's probably reemerging. President Thrasher was a huge firewall on that issue, and I know his voice will still continue to be heard with the new president there, but that's at FSU. But that's going to be an important one to kind of keep under control.
Thank you very much, Jeff and Taylor. Andy, what's next?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, just a quick note. Thank you again to Jeff and Taylor for everything. As you know, we're going to work with them and with FAC throughout committee weeks and throughout session. Just as a reminder to the board, you will be getting weekly legislative updates from us throughout session. And I know you'll be getting updates as well from FAC along the way. So thank you to Jeff and Taylor for everything you guys do for us. I'm going to hand it back over to Nikki to briefly walk us through our proposed federal priorities, and then we'll get to Vicki and Sarah from Squire Patton Boggs.
Andy, thanks so much. Nikki, before you start that, Vice Chair Proctor had a comment or question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jeff, what is the status of our gas tax revenue that comes into our state? Is there a surplus of that money, and how are we faring?
Off the top of my head, I think it's fine now. We just sat through a Department of Transportation presentation last week on electric vehicle charging infrastructure and what they project going forward. So, gas prices are high. So they're generating certainly. Sales might be down a little, but they've certainly recovered from last year. COVID, travel, et cetera. The long term. They're trying to identify ways of offsetting, combustion engine gas taxes when electric vehicles come online. Electric vehicles are less than 2% of total vehicles on the road today, so it's a long ways out, 10 years out probably. But my understanding is they're probably, the revenue, the trust fund for the gas tax revenue is probably fine right now.
Okay. And my final question is, you said that there was surplus money that we come down, and we are a blue county, and we're, in my opinion, gerrymandered out of surplus funding. We getting scrapped off the table in nothing in excess of what a blue county just can't get. The fee in lieu of concept is one which I've raised for
Correct.
a number of years. If there's excess money on that table, and we are this state's capital, supplying EMS and everything that backs up the same way the District of Columbia backs up the United States federal government. When crazy people take over the Capitol, you call the district police. Crazy people come to Tallahassee, you call the Tallahassee police. But neither this county nor city is compensated for all that we give, and our property taxes are not available to us as revenue. Could you explore, maybe for our board, an approach to which we can, probably not through this legislature or not through this particular governor, but that it's important that we continue to build and make that case that there is a legacy, and over time when the seasons change again, that better minds will, in particular when there's surplus money and we don't get any as a capital. Yeah. And I just like for you to scratch on that a little bit to tell us, and I'm well enough aware that ain't nothing like that gonna happen, but as a concept, please tell us a little bit about your idea of how we can go about it.
Okay. It's a rational idea. So we'll do some digging on that and come back and, maybe it's a fee for services, for different kinds of services that are provided, EMS, police, fire, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Jeff. Commissioner Dozier, you had some final comments before we move on to federal priorities?
Yes, sir, I can make this pretty quick. Just a few other issues that were floating around. This is a phenomenally shorthand, big bucket of, we've been talking about housing, homelessness, and mental health, just repeatedly. And so I don't think we need to dig into that. We know a lot of the status of that. We've talked about it recently. FAC is focused on these issues, but those are just three big ones that I assume as you go forward might be in our reports as they come back. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So the supervisor election priorities, I may have missed something. Forgive me, Commissioner Cummings. You were mentioning this earlier. Is that right? Just reading through the list from our supervisor that he passed out. These priorities look right in line with issues that we would care about and support for sure. And I know we took up the one issue, Mr. Chair, last time, but I just may have missed something in the discussion earlier, and I just wanted to make sure that we were reflecting on the full list of the priorities that Supervisor Early has given us. Are we in the right posture to do that? Or there was no direction then? Okay, so I didn't miss.
Just thinking off the top of my head, I've not seen this list of priorities before, and
Right.
I would want to do some research on these priorities
Okay.
before I were to make a personal position on them.
Thank
Not
you,
to say
sir.
that I've got a tremendous amount of respect for our supervisor elections here in Leon County. He's very policy focused and is focused on doing the right thing, and I know that. But still, for my own benefit, and if I'm being asked to take a position on these, I'd want to do some more research.
Okay. And when I said the right posture, forgive me.
And I was just looking at the list in here from the
Yes.
Florida Association of Counties that I know we had talked
Yes.
in depth in the committee meeting about exemption for county attorneys. So that's why I raised that.
And that's why I wanted to make sure I had it right, because you mentioned county attorneys and these things are kind of overlapping. So I'm with you, Mr. Chair. In the right posture, perhaps this more information could come back with our ratification item. We've got the list from the supervisor now, but is that possible to dig into it a little bit more and bring it back on the 12th in case we want to add to our list of priorities at that point?
I think that's reasonable, yes.
Okay. And I see, thank you, Supervisor Early, you're nodding. Mr. County Administrator, do you need any other direction for that, for a motion or anything? Okay.
All right, Commissioner Cummings, I just want to make sure, are you, any more remarks or comments from you, ma'am? Okay. Did you have any other remarks before we move on to the federal priorities? Now, what we'll do is we'll move to the federal priorities and discuss those. And then at the very end, if you wish to bring, because some of these are interrelated, right? So if you'd like to bring up any, federal comments or questions at that point, as well as any remaining state level legislative priorities, we can do that before we have a motion to approve. Okay, Andy, I think we're ready for any last minute comments on the state. Okay, Andy, I think we're ready to move on to the federal.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I'll hand it over to Nikki to walk us through our federal proposed priorities.
Thank you, Nikki.
All right, so moving on, Commissioners, our first two federal issues on the list relate to the federal appropriations and the proposed infrastructure package, which we'll be hearing more on shortly from our federal lobbyist team. So I'll just provide some brief highlights. As you'll recall from earlier this year, we worked closely with Congressman Lawson's office to submit earmark requests for the county's Concord School restoration and Lake Henrietta projects to be considered during this year's federal appropriations process. We also worked with the congressman to submit a $5 million request for the Magnolia Drive Trail project for consideration in the House's proposed surface transportation reauthorization bill. As Congress continues to finalize its appropriations and its surface transportation reauthorization, which Sarah and Vicki will provide more detail on in just a moment, we're proposing to support the inclusion of direct federal funding for local projects as part of our federal priorities. And next, you'll see Amtrak again, but this time on the federal side, we are recommending for the county's continued support of federal grant opportunities to facilitate passenger rail restoration along the Gulf Coast route. Then on our next slide, we have we actually have a new issue we're proposing this year to support the Federal Disaster Housing Stability Act of 2021. Just like Jeff just mentioned, as you know, in light of the pandemic, the CDC issued a nationwide eviction moratorium, which was effective through July 31st of this year. Since that time, and following numerous court challenges on the moratorium, the Federal Disaster Housing Stability Act was filed in the U.S. House, notably with Congressman Lawson as a co-sponsor. We're recommending to support the Federal Disaster Housing Stability Act, as well as similar legislation filed during the upcoming session of Congress. Moving along, we're also proposing support of federal cannabis legislation, such as the Marijuana Opportunity Reinvestment and Expungement Act, or the MORE Act for short, which seek to decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. As you'll recall, the board included supporting the MORE Act of 2019 as part of last year's federal legislative priorities. Earlier this year, the MORE Act of 2021 was refiled in the U.S. House, and more recently, Senate leadership released draft marijuana reform legislation titled the Cannabis Administration and Opportunity Act. We're proposing the board's continued support of these bills, as well as other federal cannabis legislation filed for consideration during the next session of Congress. Next last relates to the city's application for a foreign trade zone at the Tallahassee International Airport, which has been a federal priority of the county for the past few years. As the city continues coordination with the federal government to complete its formal application, we are recommending the county's continued support of these efforts. And then finally, as we do each year, we are recommending that the county continue to support the National Association of Counties legislative program, similar to our support for FACTS. So with that will wrap up our proposed federal priorities. And I would now like to hand it over to Vicki Cram and Sarah Vilms to provide some updates as we head into the second session of the 117th Congress.
Thank you, Nikki. I'm Vicki Cram. I am a principal with Squire Patton Boggs. And I apologize for not being there in person right now, and Sarah will do the same, I'm sure. We love coming to visit you all, but we are doing this remotely at this time, given COVID and all that's going on. I'd like to start, as Jeff did, by commending your excellent government relations team, who are wonderful to work with, led by Andy Johnson, and including Nikki Payton and Miranda Hernandez. They do excellent work for the cities of Leon County, and they do you proud. Before I get started on sort of telling us where we are right now in the process on some of the important pieces of legislation that were just referenced by Nikki, I did want to flag something that's happened since we last spoke, which was almost a year ago in public in this venue, which is the great success that we had with the American Rescue Plan, wherein we worked to achieve funding for state and local governments, working with NACO and other national organizations. The American Rescue Plan directed $350 billion in state and local funding for a variety of COVID-related uses, along with sewer, water, drinking water, and broadband projects. In addition to getting funded directly to local governments, we also worked to have revenue loss included as an eligible use for those funds. Of that $350 billion nationwide, the county received $57 million in two tranches, one this year, which we already have and are working on, and the other next year. We are awaiting a final rule from Treasury guiding the uses of these funds, which should be released towards the end of this fall. The American Rescue Plan also included $7 million to Leon County for emergency rental assistance, and Leon County is to be commended, as you were in the top 10 in the country in spending down that money, which triggered the release of a second tranche of funding, totaling $10 million overall. We worked with the Treasury Department to ensure that they were aware of the county's excellent and expeditious administration of federal funds. This is an interesting week to be presenting to you on the federal agenda, as there are several very complex issues being worked out right now on Capitol Hill, and the dynamics are changing by the minute. The first is the continuing resolution to fund the federal government after Thursday, September 30th, which is the end of the federal fiscal year, and the suspension of the debt ceiling. I will turn it over to Sarah Vilms to discuss those topics, and then I will come back to talk about infrastructure. Sarah?
Thank you, Vicki. I'm waiting for the host. Oh, here we go. Thank you very much. It's lovely to see you all again. Really appreciate this opportunity to be with Leon County, even though we're not there in person, and we miss seeing you all in person very much. We hope to get back there soon. Vicki was helpful in bringing us up to date as to where we are. I'm going to I'll give a brief overview of the fiscal year 2022 federal appropriations that impact Leon County specifically. I'll first give an overview, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the specific line items. But because Congress has not yet passed their annual appropriations bills, federal funding will run out this Thursday at midnight. That's September 30th. This leaves Congress with the option of a continuing resolution, what we call a CR. A CR is used to provide additional time to Congress for consideration and passage of federal appropriations and other bills that may require extensions. The CR being contemplated here would run into early December. It does not contain an extension of the surface transportation bill. Speaker Pelosi may tie that bill to the consideration of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Vicki will discuss that a little bit later. But the CR does have the National Flood Insurance Protection, as well as the temporary assistance for needy families, as well as disaster aid and funding for Afghanistan tied to it. So if it does pass, we will see those things extended as well to early December. Again, NFIP and TANF would have to be voted on permanently at that point in time, but for now it's just an extension. But complicating all of this is the debt limit. The debt limit needs to be raised, and in order for the U.S. to avoid defaulting on our debt, it needs to be raised in order for the U.S. to avoid defaulting on our debt owed to other countries. Since Alexander Hamilton, the U.S. has never defaulted, And that is one of the reasons the US currency is considered the gold standard in the world. The CR has currently been tied to the debt limit. That is what Congress is trying to pass. On Monday night, it failed in the Senate because Leader McConnell has said that the Republicans will not support a debt limit raise. And that has been difficult because the Congress needs 10 Republicans in the Senate to pass that. So Plan B, the Democrats have also reportedly prepared a clean CR that removes the debt limit language. There is also a possibility that the debt limit language could be attached to the reconciliation bill that the House Democrats are still negotiating. But that would require some additional steps and push the nation closer to defaulting on its debt obligations. So we have this dual issue here, but in addition to the threat of defaulting on the debt obligations, without passing the CR, we would have a government shutdown. So what does all this mean for Leon County? There are 2 earmarks pending right now, and we have been using earmarks for a long time. They are line item budget numbers that are now being called in the House community project funding requests, and in the Senate, they're called congressionally directed spending. There are 2 in the bills right now for Leon County. One is for $1 million for the Concord School. That's in the Transportation HUD and Urban Development Bill. This request would make enhancements to the Concord School building's exterior, as well as air conditioning, plumbing, electrical systems upgrading. If funded, it'll support the advancements of the county's rural community sense of place plan. There's also a second earmark included for $1.6 million for Lake Henrietta. That's in the Interior and Environment Appropriations Bill. That would support the restoration of the 18-year-old stormwater facility, including hydraulic dredging, removal and disposal of sediments, as well as the installation of a debris interceptor, which is fantastic. The project would serve as a long-term solution to reducing sediment and litter from the lake and improving water quality, not only there, but to Lake Munson and to Wakulla Springs. Your neighbors will be very happy. So we are really thrilled about these 2 requests. They were both supported by Congressman Lawson. There is some question, as we talked about earlier, as to whether the CR whether the appropriations bills will make it all the way through. Not necessarily these earmarks. It's whether the larger bill will go. If there is a year-long clean CR, there's a possibility that these may not get in there. But for now, they are in. Congress is pressing for this bill, not a clean CR, and we are advocating strongly for them. I'm going to turn it back to Vicki to talk about the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and then we're going to come back and we'll talk about the reconciliation package.
Thanks, Sarah. So the other thorny issue that Congress is wrestling with marks the keystone of President Biden's legislative agenda: a physical infrastructure package and a human infrastructure package. With the Senate at 50-50 and the House with a razor-thin 3-vote margin for the Democrats, in order to move the president's agenda, it is important that Democrats try to stick together. There is a very delicate needle to thread to achieve this legislative agenda, with many competing factions within the Democratic Party and no Republican votes to count on. On the physical infrastructure side, on September 30th, same day that Sarah was talking about when the federal government may shut down if there isn't a CR, the authorization for all surface transportation programs will expire. So that's highway, transit, rail, safety, etc. As you know, the House began the year, and this is in your package, your fabulous package that Andy and Nikki put together. As Jeff said, it really is incredibly well done. As you know, the House began the year by developing a bold surface transportation reauthorization called the INVEST Act. Similar to the appropriations process, the House moved forward with a request for member-sponsored community projects. And that included, at our request of Congressman Lawson, and then Congressman Lawson's request of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee a $5 million designated for Leon County's Magnolia Drive multi-use trail and utility improvements project. So that was in the House Invest Act. It also included 3 other projects in the Tallahassee region that are listed in your workshop materials. The Invest Act could not pass the Senate, and so the long process of negotiating a bipartisan infrastructure framework, which we call the BIF in Washington, D.C., because everything has to have an acronym, began between the Senate and the White House. And ultimately, in early August, the Senate passed the Bipartisan Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act, IIJA, which would provide $1 trillion over 5 to 8 years for roads, bridges, ports, airports, rail, and transit projects. But it does not include any member-designated projects. It does include, however, just to sort of give you a little inkling of what's in it for Leon County in writ large, over $7 billion for the Competitive Raise program. This is formerly the BUILD program, formerly the Tiger program, and $3.2 billion for the Competitive Infra program, which is freight mobility. So those all a lot more money than is currently in the pot for those programs. It also includes funding for culvert development for water flow, new safe streets and road program for traffic signals, a new SMART program for sensor-based infrastructure systems integration, and funding for healthy streets, an equity-related program for tree canopies and porous pavements. It also has a significant focus on resilience, including for competitive flood mitigation grants and $550 million for the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program that is half formula, half competitive, and flows to local governments to leverage efforts to improve energy efficiency and reduce fossil fuel emissions. Additionally, there is $43 billion for the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, $55 billion for water infrastructure. Of that, $23 billion is for drinking water and clean water state revolving loan funds, and $15 billion is for lead service line replacement. There's also funding for EV charging and fueling infrastructure grants to local governments, and $5 billion for low or no emission electric school buses. And last but not least, as we've already discussed at great length during the state part of the presentation, $66 billion in passenger and freight rail as funding as the bill seeks to eliminate Amtrak's backlog of deferred rail maintenance and create new corridors, which bodes well for the reestablishment of the Sunset Limited Passenger Rail Service. This BIF, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, is on the House floor this week as we speak, having been brought up by Speaker Pelosi yesterday as a promise to moderate Democrats to consider it by September 27th. A vote is set for Thursday. Secondly, there is the human infrastructure package, now called Build Back Better, which the House has assembled over the past month. It weighs in at $3.5 trillion and includes a variety of important Democratic priorities, such as extension of the child care tax credit, 12 weeks of paid leave for birth or adoption of a child, universal pre-K, free community college, and $322 billion in funding for new and existing federal housing programs. Commissioner Dozier was just talking about homelessness and the need for additional homeless support. Federal housing programs, including targeted funding streams for new construction and preservation of housing, rental, and down payment assistance, sustainable and resilient housing, and fair housing enforcement. And it also contains the Biden administration's climate priorities, which Sarah will discuss at greater length later on. House progressives have said that they will not vote for the BIF, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, until the Senate votes on the Build Back Better, the Human Infrastructure Bill, which was assembled in the House Budget Committee. The House has been putting together their version of it on Saturday and is being considered now by the Rules Committee. This legislation is also being referred to, just to make it more complicated, as the reconciliation package, after the Senate budget mechanism for passage of legislation by a simple majority in the Senate. As everyone knows by now in our prolonged national civics lesson, the only way to bypass the filibuster and bring a bill to the floor without 60 votes is through the arcane reconciliation process. It is a procedure that has very strict rules for what is allowed to be considered under it. Basically, provisions need to be related to spending or taxation. So a policy related to taxing or spending, unrelated to taxing or spending, is harder to pass or enact under reconciliation. The Senate parliamentarian is the arbiter of what can ride on a reconciliation bill and what is not allowed. And a couple of weeks ago, she ruled that the immigration reform measure that Democrats proposed could not be passed via the reconciliation process. So back to where we are right now. This week, House moderates wanted to pass the BIF and give President Biden a much needed win. And Pelosi promised to vote by Thursday. The progressives have declared that they won't vote for the infrastructure bill until the $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill is passed by the Senate or some ironclad deal is hashed out by party leaders. So Speaker Pelosi was trying to juggle the two-track process of linking the two bills together, but last night at a Democratic caucus meeting, Pelosi told her members that she is forging ahead with the standalone vote on BIF, the bipartisan infrastructure package, while the much larger bill is being hashed out, as almost everyone realizes that the $3.5 trillion package can't pass the Senate in its current form. She pressed her progressives to change their view and support the BIF anyway, saying events of the last few weeks have made clear that the House, the Senate, the White House, negotiations on the reconciliation package need more time. This is a big turnaround from her previous position that the two bills are directly linked. This sets up a major showdown between the Speaker and the progressives in her caucus, and it is likely that the BIF might not pass without major whipping of votes by the President and others, or at least pass at this time. It may be able to pass later on. House Republicans have said they will force Pelosi to get to the magic 218 votes to pass it without Republican help. Republicans who have said they will vote for it, and there's a handful, like 5, will likely be held back by leadership until it is proven that the Democrats can pass this on its own. So that's where we stand right now, and we will know on Thursday as to whether the BIF has passed or not. On the Senate side, there are at least 2 Democratic senators who have barely begun to negotiate on the reconciliation package, and that is the key Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia, who says he wants a much smaller package and in the realm of like 1.5 trillion, and does not see the urgency of passing something at this time, and Senator Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona, and they both are going to the White House today to meet with the president, so conversations are happening. So getting to the Goldilocks just right on the Build Back Better reconciliation bill is going to be quite the juggling act. How this ends is anyone's guess now. Ultimately, if I had to hazard a guess, I would say that BIF and a smaller scale back reconciliation package will ultimately pass, but not without a lot of drama, and it'll probably take us all the way through December. I've mentioned a few of the elements in the reconciliation package earlier, and I wanted to mention one more before I turn it over to Sarah, which is that the House package includes $6 billion in undesignated local projects, which we believe are intended to be a marker for the community project funding that was kicked out of the bipartisan infrastructure package. So that would mean that the $5 million might be back and it might be in the reconciliation package. But we also believe that that is a provision that may well be struck by the Senate parliamentarian. So we will have to see on that. One of the most important parts of the reconciliation package as it now stands is that it contains the heart of the Biden climate agenda. And I will turn to Sarah to discuss some of those elements in the House bill, and then we will take your questions after that. Thank you.
Thanks, Vicki, for that. That's very helpful. So as Vicki rightly said, the reconciliation bill contains really this administration and the Democrats' climate priorities that they could not incorporate in the IIJA. That's the BIF that Vicki was talking about earlier that is on the floor because the Republicans decided to block those provisions from being included. So they are forced to do it in a different bill, and they chose the reconciliation bill. There are numerous funding provisions in this reconciliation bill in the climate pieces that could be helpful to Leon County. and I will go through a couple of selected ones, not all of them, because it's just be too many, and we'll provide you a comprehensive amount, a comprehensive list, certainly as soon as all of that is finished. Another caveat, and Vicki did reference this, because they're trying to cut the reconciliation bill from 3.5 trillion to maybe 1.5 to 2 trillion, a number of these items may get slimmed or may shake out. But we think these would be very helpful for Leon County. So there's $750 million included for reducing community waste infrastructure. There's $150 million for wildfire preparedness, for allowing communities to prepare for wildfires. There's $5 billion for community-led projects addressing environmental justice. So these are areas of the community that may have been left behind or had a power plant in them where the air pollution was contaminated or had a landfill in the area. Then there's $3.2 billion funding for resiliency that would go to states for energy efficiency projects. Some of that may be able to trickle down. There's $100 million for low emissions electricity. That's low emission electricity programs. There's $27 billion for a greenhouse gas reduction fund that would go to state and local financing institutions that deploy low or zero emission technologies. There's $250 million for the Clean Energy Performance Program. This is very key. This is a program that is trying to pay incentives to utilities to incorporate more renewable energies into their mix to provide cleaner energy to consumers. There's $5 billion in there for energy efficiency conservation block grant, the energy efficiency block grant program. This can be broadly used by the county for numerous items. There's $315 million for air quality monitoring, $3.5 billion for the weatherization assistance program, and also there would be an extension of the wind and solar tax credits. So currently, they're looking at a 10-year extension of the investment tax credit for solar, which means if you put solar on your roof, you get 30% off your federal income taxes right off the bottom line. And the PTC for wind is similar for large wind scale projects. That's the production tax credit. But that would go a long way to accelerating our decarbonization efforts that the administration wants. So those are some of the highlighted pieces. Of course, we're happy to talk about others, and we're happy to take your questions.
Vicki and Sarah and Nikki and Andy, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Any questions or comments about the federal policy? Mr. Dozier.
I'll jump in. Thank you all. Nikki, Andy, great report. Vicki and Sarah, it's good to see you. Sorry you're not at the table with us today, but it's good to see you. And thanks for all your hard work. Great update on so many things. I will say it's always helpful to get your rundown of reconciliation or CRs, anything like that. We can hear it in the news, but it's a little different to hear it from, your perspective on the ground. So thank you. I'm gonna, Mr. Chair, I only have a couple questions here, but just working backwards. Sarah, the last part you mentioned, the sustainability, climate change issues, reducing community waste. This just triggered something because it did come up for discussion at FAC a little bit. The recycling goals, I know that's something that we've worked really hard on. Just as we move forward, if that gets some traction, Andy, you're nodding, so those are types of things that I'd love to learn a little bit more about. So thank you for flagging that. I really love the line of since Alexander Hamilton. That's a good one, Sarah. I don't know which one. I thought that was you, maybe Sarah. Yeah, that was good. So all good updates there. This is one that kind of goes for both state and federal, and I didn't mention it earlier. We talk about industrial hemp all the time on the state end for our Cap Alliance folks wearing their other hat. And the marijuana legislation, good update for, the classification there. I really haven't dug into this much, but I heard something I think it was in the last week, about the National Hemp Association suggesting language that would help. This is for industrial hemp farmers, and particularly minority farmers. And I just wondered, Mr. Chair, if that's something that we could track a little bit more. I've talked to the county administrator about this. It's certainly something that the Regional Planning Council is looking at as a job creator for our whole region. Industrial hemp fiber, we're actually trying to attract processors right now and having some good conversations. So it can help farmers throughout the region. There's an R&D component, there's manufacturing. So I wondered about adding that in. If you don't have any information right now, again, that came from the National Hemp Association. It may not have traction, actually. It may not have sponsors or whatever the language we need to use. But that's something that I think might be interesting. And then on the state side, I'll just toss this in. I know there's some calls to change the vertical integration of medical marijuana, and that would open up access for different farmers, and particularly minority farmers are really advocating for that. So on both of those ends, state and federal, just adding a little bit to the decriminalization piece, really looking at how it supports our workforce, both regionally and locally. I don't know if you have any comments on that, but that was my one kind of new issue I wanted to put out there. And then I would just say, Mr. Chair, the same conversation we had about workforce and apprenticeship, if there was anything on the federal level, I assume that you're going to be tracking this on both ends. The human infrastructure, I don't know what's going to come out of that bill. I haven't looked at the workforce component, but if there is anything, I think looking at that from both federal and state might be interesting. So am I on the right track with the workforce then? And then is there any comments on the industrial hemp side?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, lots of great information from Pat and Boggs. Obviously, I'll say a couple things. Number one, obviously your workshop materials have two very, very informative and detailed attachments from Pat and Boggs that give you kind of exactly what we know at this moment in time. As Vicki and Sarah said, a pretty momentous week in Congress right now. Just to distill kind of what they presented to you, obviously we've got a federal budget that runs out on September 30th, and as Vicki and Sarah mentioned, we're looking at a continuing resolution to continue the funding potentially through beginning of December at this time. There's a debt limit issue that may be tied into that may be also tied into reconciliation. There's a $1 trillion physical infrastructure package that could have a vote as early as this Thursday. Separate from that is another $3.5 trillion reconciliation package that may take a little bit longer, could get done earlier, but it may take a few more weeks or months potentially. So those are kind of the major high-level issues that we're keeping our eyes on. In addition, everything else that Vicki and Sarah keep our eyes on for us here. But what I would tell you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Dozier. Just like we did with CARES, with the American Rescue Plan, as we did with the CR that Congress passed in December of 2020, should Congress pass any of these major pieces of legislation, we would come back to you with a full analysis of everything that's in there, including industrial hemp, including anything in terms of homelessness, mental health, and the reconciliation package. A full analysis of all of those things and how they may relate to county operations with much more detail.
I assume the workforce component, everything was on your list.
All of those things.
The hemp piece is not included. We included the decriminalization, and you have a good update on that on the federal side. But there may be some action in the state government at some point, and then we didn't add the industrial hemp component on the federal side. So that was just the new part, right? Yes.
What we would do right now, Commissioner, our plan would be to bring back any analysis to you on anything that passes, whether federal or state. If the board would like to include anything on any of these issues as part of our legislative priorities, we can do that as well.
That's what I just wanted to distinguish that from the workforce. I assume that's going to come up, but the other piece, I don't think it's in any of the current bills on the industrial side. So I'm not sure if y'all have any comments on that, Mr. Chair, from our state or federal team. Otherwise, we could talk about it offline or at another time. But I just wanted to toss out those two issues, and the industrial hemp could be a real workforce and economic engine for us in the near future. So I just want to make sure we're tracking that. Yeah. I knew you would agree. Yes.
Commissioner, to your point about the apprenticeship, there is a significant portion being debated in the reconciliation bill about a large apprenticeship program. There are many components, how that works with labor and how it would be executed, how it would be paid for. But that is, you make a very good point. That's a very hot button issue, and we're tracking that closely. And as Andy said, as soon as anything passes, because we don't want to, give you something that may not pass, but we'll get you a full analysis.
That's all I was asking for. I'm just looking ahead, making sure that we have that on both federal and state side. That was all. Yeah. Okay. Mr. Chair, I think that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Dozier. I have a couple comments, really. Vicki and Sarah, were you present? Were you online when we had the discussion about at the state level about the Amtrak passenger restoration?
Yes.
Great. But just to reiterate real quickly, when and if the infrastructure bill passes, the $1 trillion as well as mainly in the $1 trillion, the physical infrastructure bill, when that passes, we'd definitely like to get an update from you and Nikki and Andy on what the implications might be for Leon County, and at that point do an assessment of what our political likelihood might be of having passenger rail restored along the Gulf Coast, given the results of that bill. So that's one thing. And then I really am grateful for your explanation about the reconciliation process and the House and Senate and how that might transpire. I know you're really kind of giving your best guess on what the likelihood might happen between now and I guess December, right? When they might be thinking that might be the timeline for this. I realize that all of this is conjecture, but what would be your best guess, the most likely scenario, and what might happen to the current 3.5 trillion bill? I mean, the reconciliation package. I know you described very well the Manchin, Sinema, and some of the dynamics there. But because of those dynamics, as you see them now, what do you think might be a likely scenario of how this ends up? In other words, what might be in the actual 3.5 trillion now, but likely to be smaller? What's your best guess on what that amount might be and what might it contain?
I'll take a first stab at that, and then Sarah can add anything. I think we think right now that it's more likely to be a $1 to $2 trillion package, not a 3.5. And I think right now what they're trying to do is hit that number and then work backwards from the number as to what can be in the bill given that number. So there are a lot of ideas there about expanding Medicare and Medicaid and the universal pre-K and all that sort of stuff. But I think the thinking right now amongst the progressives is we will try to figure out what's really important to us and what's going to be that overall number, and then try to meld the two together. And I think that Manchin has said that he's willing to take 1 to 1.5 trillion, even though he is also sort of balking at the timing of it. But I think it remains to be seen what's going to stay in the bill and what's not. And Sarah, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's going to be pressure to get this package around the 2 mark, just because of some of the climate, the ITC and the solar and some of what you need to get done for those tax credits. You need it close to the 2 mark if you want to effectuate any decarbonization that we've committed to globally, et cetera. I think that hopefully they can raise Senator Manchin as maybe the one or only maybe 1.5, holdouts. But exactly what Vicki said, I think what we'll see here is a slimming of the package. I don't know that they're going to want to try and axe wholesale programs. They're going to want to try and take what they've got and give them a haircut. There will be probably a few things that fall out of the package entirely. But as far as the climate pieces, over the weekend, the DSCC had its meeting, and all 50 Democratic senators put climate as their #1 priority. So you got to fund those, and I think you got to get close to the 2 mark on that. So it's anyone's guess. If you want to go to Vegas, now's the time to go.
Great, thank you very much. I realize that, your answer might change 4 hours from now, just because of how things are quickly moving in DC, but it does help us, I think, get some understanding of where things might possibly end up. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. Andy, Nikki, anything else on the federal side?
Mr. Chairman, that wraps it up for us. Staff recommendation, obviously, as you have in your workshop materials, is to approve the proposed slate of state and federal legislative priorities as may be amended by the board. We're happy to take any direction the board may wish to provide.
Any other comments, questions from the commissioners? Would there be an interest in making a motion? Commissioner Dozier.
I'll make a motion.
All right, to accept options 1 and
Yes, sir, with the additional comments that county administrator said we didn't need to include in the motion. Yes, sir? Okay, thank you.
Gotcha. So that would be
that's
options
my
1 and 2, correct?
Yes, I'm getting
Okay.
back to my notes there. Is it 1 and 2?
I'll second that.
Thank you.
I'll second that. Any discussion on the motion? Commissioner Cummings, did you have a comment, ma'am? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Passes unanimously 4-0 with, I meant to mention this before. Commissioner Jackson unfortunately could not join us today. He also will not be able to join us this evening. So the motion is 4-0 with Commissioner Jackson, Vice Chair Proctor, and Commissioner Maddox out of chambers. All right. Well, listen, Vicki, Sarah, I just want to thank you very much for zooming in with us. Andy and Nikki, thank you for everything you do. Years ago, I worked when I was over at the city. I had a role that was very similar to yours, and so I understand how much work goes into all of this. And we had help over there too. We had state and federal lobbyists, but it's an incredible amount of work. And so I just want to thank our county staff for doing that. And Jeff and Taylor, thank you for everything you do. We see all the hard work that you're doing for us at the state level and the benefits that provides us here in Leon County. So thanks very much. Now, the county administrator had a couple comments.
Just very quickly, commissioners, we will keep you posted, and Jeff and Taylor, we'll take our cues from you all, but as we enter into, with the upcoming session, different perhaps protocols in terms of in-person visitation and appearances at the Capitol. Commissioners, we'll keep you well posted. I just wanted to thank you for always being available to us. As you know, here at Leon County, we get called upon more than our fair share of times to appear across the street. And I just wanted to thank you in advance for that, for always your good guidance here and throughout the year. And again, for always being available. It's important. And again, we realize the protocols are constantly changing, but any news so far, guys, on what that might look like?
Yeah. The Capitol is open. The masks are optional, and committees are first come first serve for the most part. So members may ask you to in their offices wear a mask, etc. But it's going to be open.
Gotcha. And with that too, just wanted to say wanted to on behalf of our team always acknowledge the hard work of our contract team, Jeff and Taylor and Vicki and Sarah. We all know it's no secret there are a lot of show horses, in Washington and across the street. But we've got the workhorses on our team, and we greatly appreciate it. We are always very, very well represented in Washington and across the street. And finally, I want to acknowledge our team and Miranda Hernandez back there, who's our management intern. I just wanted to take the opportunity to acknowledge her work and maybe even embarrass her a little bit because couldn't let that opportunity go by. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Thank you, Mr. County Administrator. Finally, I just want to thank Supervisor Early for joining us today. Thank you, sir, for being here. Always welcome. Any other final comments for the good of the order? All right. Listen, thank you very much. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
All right. Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion to adjourn. See you all at 6 p.m. for the public hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.